All right, welcome back, everybody. Last class, we got our sphere moving around a little bit, moving some blocks. We also started and looked at the idea of a texture on there and did a very basic one. I want to tweak that and show you some more resources today, as well as how to tweak a bit more of our code here to make it more ideal. Let's first of all have a look where we're at with our game to make sure you're about the same spot as I am. And right now I found a picture of myself on the internet. I wrapped it around that sphere, and now I've got this ball which can roll around. And if you move your face, you can see there I am there, kind of weirdly distorted and squished, which we'll talk a little bit about today. Obviously, photo just off the internet is a flat picture, and if you're going to wrap that around a sphere, you are going to get a significant amount of distortion. And today I want to talk a little bit about also where you can get some more advanced tutorials on the images and working with graphics and things like that. We also looked at just adding the color to that, so let's do a very quick refresh of that idea. Um, I did this all on my player scene here. So if I open up my player, I've also got on Moodle for you kind of a step-by-step video or step-by-step picture shot there, adding a basic texture to your object. I want to talk a little bit about that more today as well. But just to refresh your brain, we're doing this image on the mesh. So if you click on your mesh there, we brought in a picture of me. I jumped it into a folder called images. And what we did was bring down the texture of this mesh instance. Um, Back here, sorry. Where is my texture gone here? There it is. My material is the word I'm looking for. Onto the material, we can put a texture there. So the material goes on the mesh instance. I've dropped that up there. You can just click on it again, and this comes up with a large number of options that you can also start playing with if you want. The first one we looked at was Albedo. Albedo is kind of your go-to basic thing that you would like to do. You can either colorize it or put a picture on, or do a combination of either one. You can also look down here and see a whole bunch of different stuff, metallic, roughness, clear coat, way more in depth into 3D graphics than I want to get into in this course. But if this is something that really excites you and interests you in creating your game, I have put a advanced video tutorial here off of YouTube on exactly what all those different features mean and how you can play with them to get the exact look that you're interested in. So give those a look if you are excited about it. If not, if you're just happy with some colors or some pictures, that is fine. Obviously, the face or an image is not the best one here. So I've also added a texture library here on Moodle to your assets and downloads, this Ambient CG texture library. You can find lots of textures on the internet. This is a nice one in that it's a library. You can kind of see it on all these spheres here. So I saw some of you looking at these as well. You'll notice some of these are crazy, realistic, and very, very cool. And they're actually quite large. So if you want this exact look, you're going to have to dive a little deeper into how textures work in 3D game design. But if you just look at it and you're like, oh, I kind of like this, maybe I want my player to be this kind of marbly texture here, you can click on it and you can get a little look here of these either JPEGs or PNGs. If you click one of these, you're going to download this. I'm going to go with the PNG because it gives me a little more options with that. If you download this and simply right click, show in the folder, you'll notice it's a zip file, which means that you've got a whole pile of different images in here. And if I double click it and open it, you'll see that there's actually, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different PNGs, as well as a preview, as well as some other stuff that I don't even know what it is here. If you double click and check some of these out, you'll see that the first one, this color, is probably what you're looking for. The other one here, the displacement map, you'll see is nothing like what you envisioned. The normals and the roughness and all that sort of stuff. If you want to know what all these other images are used for, definitely check out that advanced tutorial I showed you. But for most of you, all you're going to need is that color. So I'm just going to copy that one, maybe change my face, the ball from my face to something a little better. So I'm going to go back into my Godot folder and just dump this into my my project folder. It's called Terrazzo. And if I get back into Godot, then you'll see it quickly imports, and you'll see in my images there's that picture there that's gone. And maybe I'm going to get rid of that one and drag the terrazzo on there. And you can see that already it's going to look a lot better because it's a large sphere, first of all. You're still going to get some stretching and some distortion. And again, um, beyond the scope of what we're looking at here, but we can start talking a little bit later in advanced image design as to how we're going to make this work and how you can wrap it around to make it look perfect on a sphere. But already I think we're going to be a little more happy with that rather than my weird face rolling around. You get this character, this player ball here is now this kind of nice marbly texture. Looks a lot better, looks a little more realistic, still with a bit of distortion, but much better than my face, obviously. Um, Now I am noticing as I play around here that I'm moving quite slow and the roll might be a little bit off. So I'd like to fix that in the code and talk a little bit about something called uh, constants to be able to change this a little better. So let's get into our player, open up that player scene, and then remember, go and click the little script there to open up the coding of this. And at the moment, we have numbers in here for my rotation. We talked about the degree to rad, the radians here as well as 5 for my movement. And whenever you find yourself using a lot of numbers in your code, this is generally considered a bad programming practice because if I wanted to change that movement, I have to go and find every one of the 5s here, the -5 here, the -5 here, the 5 here, change them all. So rather than do that, what I would like to do is up top here, make something called a constant. And a constant is a lot like a variable, but it doesn't change. And you may ask, why would I bother using a constant rather than a variable? Variables could work just fine. I could have var speed or something like that, and then change all of my 5s to the variable speed. Well, in theory, constants actually save a little bit of memory and they are a little faster to access. But for the grade 12s, that might be interesting in that the computer doesn't have to keep a box in the computer's runtime as your game is going and be able to update that. It actually gets compiled into the game because it's not supposed to change from what the code is. So I'm going to make these into constants, and that's simply very similar like making a var. We just put a const, and in this case, let's tweak the movement speed here. So right now that is 5 or -5. So I'm going to make a constant and just call it move speed. Notice I made this capital. This is not a rule, it's just a convention. So we know the difference between variables and constants because variables are lowercase, constants we make into an uppercase speed. So I'm going to make a move speed and make it equal to 5 here. And what I can then do is instead of using the number 5 anywhere when I'm talking about movement, I'm just going to use that move speed. And notice it pops up there in code completion. I can also just copy that and I'll cheat a little bit here and just copy and paste. Now, in this case, when I'm moving to the left, I would go negative move speed. And when I go to Z, I could go the move speed here. And wherever that 5 comes in that I'm talking about moving, I can tweak the move speed. Now, in the effect, this doesn't change anything at the moment because I'm still moving at speed of 5, but I realize that it's a little bit slow. So this is way easier for me to change now because all I have to do is say, well, let's try 10 and see how that goes. And I can play the game. And now quickly we can see I'm moving a lot faster. And that gives me a better look. I also, now that I've moved that speed though, actually, my rolling is not too bad. My rolling seems to follow along, but if it was a little slower or faster, I may want to tweak that as well. Maybe I could crank it up just a little bit. Again, we've got this degree to rad throughout, and maybe what I'd like to do is I could just choose the number here, Or I could actually make a constant, we'll call it roll speed, and it equals, and I'm actually going to do that conversion right here. Remember, degree to radians. This is for the grade 12 math there. We start getting into using radians a lot more than degrees. If you're not there yet, don't worry about it. And in fact, I still think in degrees all the time too. It's just the computer likes the radians. So I'm going to put, let's try that 7 there. And now what I can do is my roll speed can replace all of that. And here, however, I notice this would be a negative, so I'll say that would be negative roll speed. This in case would be a positive, so I'll just put the roll speed there. Same idea, negative roll speed. And it's really nice, once you've got your constants defined there, Godot is going to just um, do some code completion for you. So you can make sure you don't make any spelling mistakes and make that work lovely. So we're just here really just cleaning up that code a little bit and making it easier for us in the future to be able to tweak this. It actually looks a little bit better. Notice we get a little bit of a speed difference when I'm going at an angle due to Pythagorean theorem, but I'm happy with that for now. I'm not too concerned. So there is some constants and a reminder of how to change some graphics to get our game looking a little bit better. Now you'll notice a couple things. First of all, I can just roll off the edge here. So that's going to be a bit problematic that I want to change. I may also want to do some other things. For instance, keep myself in the barrier here so that the blocks that I'm pushing around aren't going to push off the edge. And what I'd like to do, I'm moving towards some kind of a puzzle maze type 3D game. So let's play with that a bit in the next video, but at least what I'd like you to do there is add some constants into your game so that you can quickly get this a little bit better. You may also want to be able to texture, maybe the floor here or some of those blocks to kind of customize and personalize this game a bit. So give that a go, and then we'll look at our next video on putting some walls in there and maybe even talk about making this even more 3D than it is by being able to go up and down.